So after I saw The World's End, I went to the cheaper, smaller movie theater next door to the theater I went and saw World's End at to see Turbo. Turbo was a movie that came out last month that um, I had been meaning to go get around to watching, but I didn't get the chance. And that was mainly because it came out around the same time as a lot of bigger movies that I wanted to see, and that because of that, it Turbo wasn't exactly a priority of mine to see. Even though it was a movie that was certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, I figured I'd wait until it came to a cheaper movie theater to watch, and not pay $10 or whatever to go see it. Um, the only disadvantage of all of that was I wouldn't because of that I wouldn't be able to see it in 3D. But I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna bitch about that. Um, so usually when movies leave the bigger movie theater that I usually go to, they instantly usually come over to the cheaper, smaller movie theater. But this was not the case with Turbo. Unfortunately, it lasted only 3 weeks at the bigger movie theater, and after it quit playing over there, I had to wait 4 weeks until it came over to the cheaper movie theater. It was really weird. I don't understand why that happened. And when I found out it was playing this week, I figured I'd knock it out, and try to get this review done for this movie. Um, this was a movie I wasn't exactly looking forward to. It what and that's kind of a shame because I thought the trailers looked all right. I thought the trailers didn't look bad at all. I thought it kind of looked like a little bit of an original kids movie. I mean, the fact that it was a movie about a fast snail that was racing the Indy 500. I thought that was kind of original. I thought that could be kind of good, original and different for a kids movie at least. But reviews for it weren't exactly great, and even though it was getting a certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, they weren't exactly great, and so because of that, I wasn't really looking forward to it. Um, but coming out of it, honestly, it was an okay kids movie. It was a very generic, blah kids movie, and it's kind of a shame because, like I said, it had a kind of original idea. I mean, it features a snail that gets sucked into an engine that has nitrous oxide that go into his system, and because of that, he becomes really fast, and then he becomes an Indy 500 race car driver, or a snail car. I don't know what the hell you would call it, but all right, race car driver. And I was like, that's kind of an, like I said, original idea. But honestly, this movie is just basically Cars, the plot of Cars, and instead of like uh, a little patch of road like in Cars that gets saved, it's a little rinky-dink shopping mall that gets saved by our hero, and it gets noticed because of our hero, and it it's just like I said, very generic, and it's something it's like it's the plot almost a lot of kids movies that you've seen nowadays. It's nothing different at all, and that's like I said, that was my main complaint about it. I thought the voice casting in this movie was fine. There was nothing really wrong with the voice casting at all. At least it wasn't like Epic, where the cast in this movie, or the cast of Epic, sounded like they didn't give a shit about the movie they were in. The cast in this sounded like they were having a blast. They were having fun. I thought Ryan Reynolds was fine. It was good. I like Paul Giamatti as his brother. I thought Samuel L. Jackson and Snoop Dogg basically played themselves, but instead they were snails, and they basically just brought their personalities into these snails, and they were nothing different. I thought it was interesting that I didn't realize that Bill Hader was the voice of the French villain in this movie, the French race car driver in this movie. I didn't realize that until the end credits, and I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. I didn't recognize him at all, and I give him props for that. The weirdest casting choice, though, has to go to Ken Jeong as a little old Asian lady. What the hell is that? I mean, you see this little old Asian lady, and then you hear Ken Jeong's voice coming out of her, and you're like, that is really distracting. Why couldn't they just find an Asian girl, an Asian actress, to play that character? I don't get it. What was the point? And I know the point of that was to have a big name star attached to the movie, but I'm sure you could have found somebody better than that. I mean, it's just really distracting. It's like, the hell is that? I just was. I'm the only one who was bothered by that. It was really weird. Also, I mean, like I said, this movie had fleeting moments of like really brilliant stuff, and like I said, they're very fleeting, but kind of some brilliant stuff. One of my particularly favorite jokes in this whole fucking movie was the fact that really early on they showed the Turbo, or his real name is Theo, and his brother work at basically this garden, this old lady's garden, where they just basically harvest tomatoes and eat them, and that's their job. And it's like a factory. They treat it like it's a factory and everything else. But one of the problems is that randomly a crow will just come by and just snatch up one of the snails and just carry them off and eat them. Apparently, they don't show the snails being eaten, but you know that's what happens. Because like this is how it happens. Basically, don't be just having like a generic random conversation that you would hear like at a factory, like, oh hey Bob, oh hey Gary, oh, yeah, how's it going? And then like just out of nowhere, just a bird will just come out of nowhere and just snatch up a snail, and it's like oh well, there's Gary, Gary's gone, that's a shame. It's like, okay. It happens numerous times, and it's really funny and alarming, because like at one point there's like they're having a meeting about safety, and I don't know, they're just having a random talk about safety and stuff like that, just out of the blue. The bird just snatches a snail out of the crowd, and you're like, that is really funny. I was like, it's really morbidly funny. And it's like, this movie could have been like The Croods, in the fact that it had a lot of that kind of humor, and because of that, it made it different than normal kids' movies. But this movie just decided to stick with the same generic plot line, though, in the end, and that kind of hurt it. If it continued with humor like that, I would have loved this movie. That was the funniest part of the whole fucking movie. That made me laugh every time that happened. Like, the first time it happened in the movie, I was like, the hell is that? It's like, I was laughing at it. I was like, sitting there going, what the hell was that? It was like a crow just snatched up a snail. What the hell? This is morbid. I also thought it was just really freaking goofy. I mean, I know this movie has some really, really absurd, goofy moments, and I know and that's saying something about a movie that features a snail that's really fast, that it becomes an indie race car driver. But there's moments, not only does when he swallows this nitrous oxide does he become really fast, but he also gets the mannerisms of a car. He has headlights. He has music that comes out of him. He has, like, when the truck is backing up, he makes that noise. You know, the noise that when you back up a truck. I like dee dee dee. Yeah, that noise, stuff like that, and they're like, if how the hell does nitrous oxide make you absorb those kind of powers? I don't understand that, but it was really weird, and it had some. It did result in some kind of funny moments, um, particularly when music was coming out of him, and he was making this weird face, like really creepy looking face as music was coming out of him. I don't know how to explain it. You have to see it for yourself. But it was really weird. It was kind of a little frightening, honestly, for a kids movie. There was some, like, there was a point in the movie, like they addressed probably the biggest question for me when I saw the trailer for this movie. It was like, doesn't he worry about being smashed by one of these race cars? They addressed that in this movie. They show an animation of a basically a snail being smushed by a car tire. That was kind of funny and a little morbid. Like I said, I kind of like that humor in kids' movies. I mean, maybe I'm really sick in the head, but what the hell? That was really more. Even one of the crows even gets a really sick demise. Meets a really sick demise towards in the middle of the movie. One of the things I also can compliment about this movie was I didn't realize how fast this movie went along. I remember when it got to the racing part, I looked at my clock and I'm like, holy shit, this movie's almost over. It didn't feel like an hour and a half. It felt really shorter, and I was like, you know what? I give them credit for that. It didn't feel very long, you know? I just wished it was more than a generic kids movie, you know? I wish it was, if you're going to model your movie after a kids movie, don't model it after the story of, like, Cars, for God's sake. I mean, Cars wasn't exactly Pixar's best movie. But, I don't think it was a horrible movie. It's one of those movies, I know I'm not the target audience, so I'm sure, honestly, although the kids that were coming out of this theater, they didn't seem exactly thrilled by the movie, but a couple did sound like they were happy with it. I mean, it's nothing, like I said, it's nothing really bad and offensive about it that you see in a lot of kids' movies these days, and because they're like Smurfs 2 is like offensive as hell. I mean, that makes your kid dumber, for God's sake. But this movie is not one of those kinds of movies, and I can give it that. It's harmless. I'd say rent it or go see it at a cheap movie theater for $4. There's nothing really bad about it. It's not nothing to write home about either. So that's it for my reviews this week. I'll be back next week with The Butler. That'll be interesting. John Cusack as Richard Nixon. That's all I'm gonna say. John Cusack as Richard Nixon. You know what? That's one of those movies I'm really hoping is better than I think it will be, because honestly, it doesn't look like a bad movie, because Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. There's a lot of great actors in this movie, but the casting choices in this movie are really distracting. Really, really distracting, and I've heard good things about it, but I don't know if I'm interested in whether I'm gonna be able to get over some of the casting choices, especially Richard Nixon being played by John Cusack. You haven't seen that trailer, right? But yeah, that'll be coming next week. Unless I go see Riddick, that's the only other movie that doesn't look too bad. Actually, that trailers for Riddick don't look that bad. But I might just go see The Butler and maybe see Riddick another time. But if it gets a certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, I'll see Riddick. Butler is getting a certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so I'll be going to see that. So I'll be back next week with The Butler, and I will see you guys later.